Yeah, and I don't think that this team's going to draft a quarterback. If they were going to draft a quarterback, they would draft it like Desmond Ridder or Kenny Pickett last year. I think they're going to sign somebody. Like if you were gonna draft a quarterback, you would have done it when Sean Payton was here. Like you're not gonna draft a quarterback and say, okay, Dennis, mold him.
Or Pete.
Right.
Well, that's why
he hasn't done it in 15 years. Why would he do it now?
Well, Ian Book was stolen away from us.
No, he was. I mean, they cut Ian Book. If they wanted Ian Book, they could have not cut him.
The Sean Payton, the quarterback whisperer, doesn't have a really good history of drafting anybody.
That's the thing. Like everyone tells me that Sean Payton is this fantastic quarterback evaluator and developer, and maybe he is, but there's no evidence to support that. Like none. Like, did Drew Brees get significantly better over the time that he was here because of Sean Payton? Or was he kind of programmed? And then they kind of peaked together. Like,
yeah.
If the Saints drafted Drew Brees and developed Drew Brees, that would be one thing. They didn't. All the quarterbacks they drafted, have done nothing. Like, I mean, like you could look at like the Patriots and say, well, yeah, Garoppolo has been a competent starter. Jacoby Brissett has been a competent starter. Matt Castle was good enough that at least one team was like, yeah, you should start for us. He was a backup for a long time. Like the Saints don't have that. Chase Daniel is probably their most accomplished quarterback alumni that is not Drew Brees, maybe Teddy, but again, another quarterback that they did not draft or develop.
Right, I was going to say, they didn't draft him.
Taysom is probably the closest thing you could have to like a quarterback they developed. He's not even a quarterback anymore. So at least that's what they'll tell you. So like I'm not convinced. And then we're talking about him getting traded to a team, and it's like, oh yeah, he wants to go coach Russell Wilson. He wants to go coach Justin Herbert, right? Like I'm not convinced that he's going to draft a guy. I don't know. Like that is always the weird thing to me when people are giving Sean Payton accolades. I think that Sean Payton is a great coach and a great game plan, guy and a great play caller and a great offensive wizard, but I'm not convinced that he is a quarterback whisperer like everyone says he is.
No, we went, Garrett Grace in the third round. I think that was a third round draft pick, right?
Yes.
And there was
Ian Book,
nothing
right?
there. What's that?
Jameis for like 7 games, right? Like he looked okay. He didn't look great, but he didn't look bad. He didn't throw any interceptions, which is, great. Like he got it to a 5-2 record. So I guess that might be one that you look at and you're like, okay, I'll give him credit for that. But I mean, he was the number 1 overall pick, so it's not like he came in without any skills. I've never understood why he gets that quarterback whisperer. Like you could give that to Kyle Shanahan, right? Like this guy literally can take any quarterback and bring him to a Super Bowl.
Put him in there, right?
Like meanwhile, like, do we think that Sean did an excellent job with Trevor Siemian? Right? Like, with Luke McCown, like this star? I don't know. It's a strange thing to me.
Luke McCown, though, like rode that backup quarterback gig into a fantastic commercial with Verizon, like being like something like being on backup or reserve and always being ready to go kind of thing. I thought that was masterful on that end of it. But yeah, that was one thing with the Saints too, with both quarterbacks of the offense and then both on quarterback of the defense. I haven't seen the team develop many linebackers. That was always
no, it's a position they don't necessarily draft, but they developed Caden Ellis.
Yeah, that's right. This was a little different this year. I don't know. I had always thought of that. It was like they always had a problem when they had drafted linebackers having success developing them, whereas their acquisition of them on the open market or via trade was a lot better. But if they have that target out on the free agent market at quarterback, who's it going to be? Who's it really going to be over that's going to improve this year's situation from what we saw production wise? And I think the most important thing is obviously points on the board, getting into the end zone.
I told you already. I don't need to tell you again.
Lamar, but that he's not like I'm like, you have to make a a serious trade for him. I'm just thinking like what veteran could be available as a quote unquote free agent, and it's not really exciting, you know.
No, it's not.
That's why it's like it kind of weighing it back and forth. Are you going with that quarterback of the future in the draft, or are you just going with that vet that can ho hum kind of get the job done for you?
No, I think they're going to go find somebody. That's what this team does. But they're in a similar scenario to the Broncos, right? Like the Broncos make sense to hire Sean Payton because they've already established the fact that they're in win now mode, and you can't suddenly say, okay, yeah, we're not willing to go all in now, even though we were willing to go all in last year.
Yeah.
And the Saints are in a similar scenario, right? Like if you're not willing to tear things down, if you're not willing to trade off assets and try to collect future picks, right? At least not in ways that make sense. Like CJ Gardner-Johnson was not that. Like that was not the reason that you traded CJ Gardner-Johnson. That was just poor planning on the Saints' part.
That was kind of amusing from the television playoff broadcast, who essentially ripped the Saints on that one.
They're catching strays in a game they're not even playing in. But yeah, and so like if you're gonna do that, then you have to be willing to go all in, and that's why I went on that long rant about Lamar Jackson, because that's going all in to me.